Hey, everybody.
Hi,
I hope you
everyone.
can hear us.
You guys can
Nice.
hear us. If someone can ping us in the chat really quick to say hi and to say we can hear you guys banter.
All
Hi.
right.
Hi.
Here we go.
All
Tell
right.
us where you're joining us from, where you're dialing in from. Love to hear
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Share in the chat where you're from. If you're a current student, if you're just visiting, if you're checking us out, or you just want to check out some cool content. Yeah. Yay. We got some students in here. This is amazing. Already have a Q&A. Oh, sweet. Welcome.
This is great. We're so excited. You can see I have my XD up here and my Adobe monkey. I'm ready to go.
Oh, is that what he's wearing? He's wearing a little.
He's wearing an Adobe t-shirt. That
Oh,
little
that is
monkey
so
right
cute.
there. No.
That is so cute. All right. I think I have a few students from my own webinar the last couple of days, so it's gonna be awesome. All right, everyone. We're gonna give it about 1 or 2 more minutes before we get started, just so we can let everyone, or give some time to get situated, make sure that everyone can hear us, and then we will kick it off. So yeah, welcome everyone who's just joining us. If you can, say hello in the chat. Let us know where you're from, if you're a current student, or what kind of brings you here today. And then we'll get started in a little bit. Yay! This is amazing to see.
Yeah, it's awesome. Great turnout. I'm in Phoenix, Arizona, everybody. So if you're in Phoenix, raise the roof.
I'm in San Diego, so I'm right next door to Jamie. Yeah, we're not that far away from each other.
I've driven to San Diego
It's like a good,
before.
5-hour drive, not that bad. Yeah.
And then Katie, where are you representing from?
Brooklyn, New York.
Yeah.
Brooklyn.
I can't wait for the day that I can actually go back to New York, and live.
Open arms will welcome you.
Nice. Got some LA folks, Buenos Aires, geez, everywhere. New York, North Carolina, Chicago. Hey, everybody, Toronto, Canadians in the house.
We got a lot of Bay Area folks. I'm originally from the Bay Area, so hello.
Mexico. Hey, Pedro. Hey, Wendy. Hi, Sarah, Joyce, Joanne, Mike. We got lots of people here. Hey.
Awesome. We actually have someone just shared her LinkedIn to connect. So if you guys want to do that too, you can feel free to connect in the chat with each other.
That's great. Connect with us too. Connect with me, connect with Caitlin.
Yep.
We'd love to connect with you on LinkedIn as well. Feel free to send us a little note.
All right, let's go ahead and get started. So hello, everyone. I know there's probably more people filtering in, but we're going to get started today. We are going to be diving into Adobe XD and specifically prototyping. I am Emily. I am the Designlab community and student advocate. A lot of you who are in the Designlab community have probably seen me post day in and day out. I am all over the place there. So hello, welcome. To everyone who's not in the community but maybe looking to join or just trying to check this out, welcome again. I'm really happy and excited to have you here. We have so much good content today. And for those, just really quickly, we do have a giveaway at the end of the webinar. So those who stick around until the end have a chance to be randomly selected to get a free year of Adobe Creative Cloud. Yeah, so at the end, we're going to ask a question. So please pay attention to the presentation because the question does come from the presentation. And then we'll give everyone a minute or two to respond. And then we will pick a random winner based on the correct responses. And then the winner, we do ask that you stick around and just we need a few details from you, which we will get from you privately so we can give you your free year. So yeah, today, again, we're going through Adobe XD and prototyping. Jamie, she is going to be our lovely presenter today. Had the pleasure of working with Jamie in the last webinar we hosted. For those of you who have seen that, awesome, welcome back. For those of you who want to dive into XD and would like to know more about it, just more at a base level, high level, we do have that video uploaded to the Designlab YouTube channel, and I will share that link out in the chat, and then I'll kind of reiterate at the end. This webinar will also be recorded and uploaded to YouTube as well. So if anyone wants to check it out later, feel free and share it out. So yeah, I am going to hand it over to Jamie so she can introduce herself and we can get started. And then, I'm sorry, we also have Caitlin here. She is our co-host, also from Adobe. She's going to be moderating the chat. So anyone who's just joining, feel free to say hello in the chat. Let us know where you're from, why you're here. And then if you do have questions about the presentation or just questions at all related to the product or Designlab, please filter them through the Q&A feature rather than the chat, so that way we can make sure that we get your questions answered. Awesome. All right, we'll get started. I'll hand it over to Jamie.
Thank you so much, Emily. All right, I'm going to share my screen here and then see if this is working. Is everyone seeing me here?
Yep.
All right, thanks guys. So welcome to Prototyping in Adobe XD. We're going to talk today about how to bring your designs to life. That's right, give them some jazz and pizzazz and take them to the next level. My name is Jamie Nuzbach. I'm a strategic development manager, and so is Katie here with us today. I work on XD, and my background is in digital design and e-commerce. I've worked everywhere from agency to in-house. I'm super excited to be here today with you guys, and I'll let Katie take a minute to introduce herself.
Hi there. Yep. I'm coming from Brooklyn, New York. I'm also a strat dev manager with Jamie. We're on the same team. So I'll be helping out with any questions you guys have in the chat and try to give you some awesome resources you can use. Past experience, I was an interactive designer manager for a music record label. So I went straight from working as a designer to talking to designers all over the world about their workflows and how XD can help them out.
Pretty cool. It's awesome. Thanks, Katie. And feel free to connect with us. We're both on Twitter and we're both on LinkedIn. We love to connect with you, and stay tuned for more stuff coming from us too in the future with Designlab. So definitely follow us, and we always are posting great things and new updates of what's happening in XD. And first and foremost, we can't forget to thank Designlab today. We're so appreciative that you give us this platform to come talk about XD with your students and your public and your community. Thank you so much. We're really looking forward to this session today. So let's get started. We're here to talk about prototypes, right? So first and foremost, I'm not sure where all of you are in your journey. I assume some of you are students and want to be UX designers. Maybe some of you are already working as UX designers. But we first want to talk about some of those challenges that you're going to face in the UX field. Something we talk about all the time is being able to test early so that you can fail faster. And the reason we want to do that is because as UX designers, we need to be able to learn. So we want to learn early so we don't have to spend time in a costly development cycle making mistakes, right? So we don't want to have things go to development where it takes a lot more time, energy, and cost to make something. So that's a challenge we face. We want to be able to have a way to test and validate our ideas. Also, as UX designers, we have a challenge of collecting research and feedback. That's like a main focus of what we do, right? We need to get feedback. We need to have research so that we can serve our users. So we need a way to be able to get that. And also, something I know I've encountered, even you might be encountering this in your course right now, is getting a way to communicate your idea to a stakeholder. So who is your stakeholder? It can be anyone from your mentor, your instructor, to your manager. So we want to be able to get feedback from them in a timely way so we can keep moving more quickly. And that could be especially difficult today, especially with teams that are being separated in multiple different locations. So how can prototyping address some of these challenges we face as UX designers? I have no idea who said this, but I love this quote. Don't you? It's so spot on. If a picture is worth 1,000 words, a prototype is worth 1,000 meetings. Think about that. Spending time early on in the process where we are going through the phases of the project and working out any potential problems with functionality or usability and flow, and we do our user testing, helps us save time and money for your company in the long run. And it actually speeds up your timeline overall. So you're going to solve a lot of these problems with prototypes, being able to visualize the actual functionality that you're looking for early on, right? So basically that equals less meetings, less questions during the development phase of your project, and overall a better experience. So what is a prototype, guys? Let's take a look at one in XD, for example. All right, so I'm going to move here into XD, and we're going to look at a high fidelity prototype. Now, sometimes people ask, this looks so real. Why is this not the real thing? Well, I'm going to open this up, and you can see we have an animation spinning. It's not real because to make this real would require a developer. So XD's goal, what XD was meant to do, is to help designers, UX designers, mock up and simulate what the final product could look like, and then help with that handoff to the developer to make it real. So the goal of XD and why you would use XD as a designer is to create these simulations of the product so that we can user test, we can validate our ideas, and we can make sure that it's working correctly before we go into that last part of the phase. So I'm going to go ahead and get started, and you see we had some cool animation pop up right there. I'm also able to slide through and drag through these cards at the bottom, which is pretty cool. I can even engage with this search functionality and have it pop in and out. And then I want to be able to click to my next screen. I want to shop some fruits and vegetables. So I think I want some apples. So I'm going to click the plus button here. And this is all made in XD, you guys. I've got a little counter. I think I want some bananas because bananas are yummy. It's how many bananas? I think a bundle is about 5. And some oranges to add to my cart. So I've just now gone ahead and added some of the fruits that I want. I'm able to scroll. You see that my artboard is scrolling. I have the navigation staying fixed in place, and we'll talk about how to do that today. So this is how I'd want it to work on my actual device. I got my total here at the bottom. I'm going to go to checkout now. Now in XD, I'm able to use components and component states to make selections. So maybe I just want standard instead of supersonic speed delivery. And maybe I want it in October 15th and early in the morning before my day gets started. So I'm going to make those selections. How cool is this, you guys? This prototype feels so real. It's like I'm actually making these decisions. And if I don't want the 15th, I can choose the 14th. Wow, this is like really feeling how it would in production. And that's important when you're user testing. You want that realistic experience. So I'm going to continue to the next phase of my checkout. I need to add some sort of card. I don't want to spend the time filling this in, so I'm just going to hit continue for now. So I've added my payment, I've selected my delivery, I've got my summary here of my apples, bananas, and oranges, and I'm able to place my order. How cool is that? So that's an example of a high fidelity prototype. This is the best way for you to get that near realistic experience for your stakeholders and developers and your users when you're user testing. But I want to point out something to you guys. XD is not just for doing high fidelity prototypes. So if you don't know the difference, there's 3 different kind of levels of prototypes. High fidelity means this is like a really visual, realistic experience. But there's also low fidelity, which can be as simple as something, and someone told me this one time and I really appreciated that. It can be a sketch on a napkin. It can be just ideas. This can be drawing, this can be pictures, this can be anything that you've created. It just focuses on using the system instead of really what it will look like. It gives you the flexibility to be more open to making changes. If it's just a drawing, you can erase something, scratch it out, start over. You can be super, super fluid in this phase. What I like to say to students, if you really want to start testing things out early on in the low fidelity phase, is to go ahead and upload those images of your drawings to XD and start wiring those suckers together. So this is what I did for my fruits and vegetables app. I went ahead and I had a drawing. Oh, here's those cards you swipe through. Oh, here's where I added the apples, bananas, and oranges. Okay, and then I make some selections to check out, and voila, I have just completed my transaction. So this is a really great way just to start to get the flow in place. And don't worry, we're going to go over making wires and what all that means later on. We're just kind of talking about the types of prototypes you can make in XD right now. We also had a very cool plugin get launched recently that helps with this low fidelity process. It does a lot more, but I'm gonna call out one feature in particular today at this particular phase of your project, when you're at the very beginning and you're just thinking about what it might be. So I'm gonna go to my plugins panel and I will show all of this in more depth in a little bit, but it's called Whiteboard, everyone. So make a note, it's called Whiteboard. When I open this up, some of you may recognize some of these templates that it gives you. So in Whiteboard, you can add templates for affinity mapping, card sorting, your customer journey, design thinking, and work right in XD to figure out these research methodologies for your project. Beyond that, if you keep scrolling, there's so many options. You get drawing templates. So I went ahead and added 3 artboards here based on these templates in Whiteboard. So you see I have my mobile phone drawing templates, and you can even get flow charts like mind maps. I mean, it goes on Kanban boards, meeting notes, and there's even awesome tips and tricks. So if you are just starting out in UX, I cannot express enough the value you're going to get from downloading Whiteboard and all the information. Each artboard that you download, template that you use comes with instructions. And I'm telling you from folks I work with in industry, they have said this was incredibly helpful and very well thought out. You also get elements in Whiteboard like Post-its, icons, and drawing and different flowchart icons. This is great. Come in and check this out in more depth. But what I really want to talk about, especially when we're talking about low fidelity, is the ability to draw on your canvas. So I'm going to select my artboard here, this sketching wireframe, and I'm going to start drawing. So again, we're in the low fidelity phase. We're just brainstorming here. We're figuring some stuff out. We're getting creative. I'm going to pick a color, and I'm going to pick the pen, and I'm going to pick my thickness, maybe one a little thicker. And I'm going to say, okay, I want like an image here. Okay. And then maybe there's a button here, have some text. And then maybe there's a text block giving us some more information, some icons. And keep in mind, you can change the colors of these. Now, if I want to do a different section that's a different color, I can go ahead and do that here. So now we have a sketch that I just made in XD. This is like so fun and so amazing, and I can't even, it's so great. You guys have got to try this out. Please download Whiteboard immediately after this session. I'm going to hit done. So now I'm actually back in my canvas, and what's cool about this, like what I was talking about, like just using it to kind of start to feel things out. If I want to be able to prototype one of these elements, like this box here, oops, that wire just went crazy. I can actually start to prototype from this sketch to the next artboard. So I can get that realistic feeling, just like I did before with uploading my actual images, by being able to actually draw in XD and start prototyping that together. And what this is it creates that basic foundation for you to start using XD to build that next layer of fidelity, which we all know is wireframes, right? It's mid-fidelity. We're going to the wireframe phase. So we can start sketching, brainstorming, do our user research with Whiteboard, and then start to build on that to build a mid-fidelity wireframe, and then start adding our high fidelity elements to that, all in XD. Like my mind is blown. I am so excited. This is like so cool. And I hope you guys try this for your course, because it's just like, I think it's awesome. And I'm kind of jelly that I'm not in a boot camp right now. So what is a wireframe, you guys? If you answer in the chat, if you know, go ahead and tell us. But what I'm going to say is basically a digitally structured version of your sketches, right? It's semi-functional. It's going to have some of the functionality, but none of the visuals. And there's a reason for that. Sometimes when you're testing out your ideas, you just want to get the structure in place first, right? We want it to be easy to make changes at this phase, and we want to have flexibility. So sometimes if we get too heavy with graphics and colors and design, it can make it harder to make changes. And if you're doing any user testing with wireframes, you don't want your users to get distracted by what's in the wireframe. So here's an example of what I showed you at the beginning, the high fidelity, fresh food, grocery, fruits and vegetables. I actually have that same idea that I had in the high fidelity where you can drag through. I actually have this screen here we saw earlier where you can add your apples or bananas and oranges. And then here you even have like some semi-functional clicking, being able to do the checkbox, and we'll learn how to do that too. And then we add the credit card, and maybe this isn't fully thought out, but I just know you need to have some sort of payment to buy your fruits and vegetables. And then your confirmation screen. Voila, we did it. So that's an example of a wireframe. Okay, so we just went over what challenges you face as a UX designer, how prototyping can solve some of those challenges, and the different types of ways you can use prototyping in XD. But now what we need to do is learn about XD as a whole. So let's take a look and get familiar with XD. Now this session in particular is a little bit more advanced than an intro session. So if you haven't taken an intro session yet with Adobe XD, that's all right. You can even sign up for Designlab and go through it with them. You can get resources from Katie. She'll put in some great links for you to go and learn the basics of XD. I'll go over it today, but we're really going to talk a lot about the prototyping features. So in an overview, in a nutshell, the interface of XD is really important to note. It's design, I'm up in the upper left-hand corner here, everyone, prototype, and share, all in one. And this is the most important aspect of XD, that you can do these three things all at the same time. And as you saw, even in the low fidelity phase, being able to sometimes do prototype can be helpful. Sometimes you don't want to get that far into it, but you can go back and forth, and that's what's really great. You'll also note the properties panel here on the right, everybody. It's grayed out. Don't panic. That's awesome, actually, because what it's doing is XD is being contextually aware. So when I click on something, let's click on this text, it lights up with all the features I need for text. So you do not have to have windows open all the time. You're only seeing what you need to see when you need to see it, which is pretty cool in my opinion. I'm used to coming from a tool where it was tools all over the place all the time, and it really got in the way of me being able to see the visuals of my design. And if you click on a shape, for example, it will change to the properties you need for that shape. So that's the hidden kind of trick to XD. When you first start your XD project and you open it up and you see that there's nothing to click on, that's because you need to start your design. Make an artboard, start making your design, and all of those tools will start coming to you very intuitively. We also have a super awesome canvas. Look at how many artboards I have on here, guys. I have my presentation in here. I have my low, mid, and high fidelity. I've got examples, and this thing is fast. It's like lightning. It's like I can scroll, I can zoom, I can do all the things. This is 4K images. Oh my gosh, it's so fast. It's like blur, speed of light, everybody. Cool, yes, this matters. XD was meant for you to design at the speed of thought. And that when you are in the grind and you have a huge project, trust me, you want to be able to move fast. You don't want to wait for lags and drags. This is our toolbar here on the left. I'm going to assume you guys know how to make shapes and text boxes. We have our assets panel, which is the primary foundation for design systems, which is a whole nother session unto itself. We have our layers panel. Again, this is something that's been reimagined in XD. If you've used Photoshop or another Adobe product before, you might be familiar with layers. But in XD, same as the properties panel, we're only showing you what you need to see when you need to see it. So when I click into an artboard, I'm only seeing the layers I need to see for that artboard. And then lastly, plugins. Again, if you don't know how to download plugins, you can hit the plus icon next to plugins in the panel here. You can go to plugins. Yours is going to be empty. If you don't have any, don't worry that you don't see all these. I've downloaded them. Go to Discover Plugins, and here is where you can find Whiteboard and do your drawing on the canvas. Okay? So we just covered the interface. So we're not going to talk about design so much today, but if you have a design that you've already made in like Sketch or Illustrator or Photoshop, in XD, you can open those files right in XD and start prototyping. So if you've made a design that's just static right now, and you want to add some of this fidelity by adding these interactions, You can do that with XD. You can just go ahead and open those files and start working right away, which is really cool. So you can open up Sketch, Illustrator, and Photoshop. And something to note also in XD is that we have the cloud here. So you see I have a cloud icon next to my name. So I can save my files to the cloud, which allows me to do a few things. For example, I've had this file for a while now, and I'm able to look at the timestamps of all of these files. So I have a document history, and I can even mark these files. So if I want to mark this one from today, we can go ahead and put the bookmark. It'll add it as a marked version, and I can even rename this as my Designlab presentation from today, and I'll have that forever. Now these timestamp ones last for up to 60 days, which is really great. So I can go back and find older versions. This is really useful. So utilize the cloud when you want to do that. The cloud also allows us to add collaborators. So you guys, this is super important as students. You guys work in teams. You guys have projects where you need to be doing something together in your file. Right now, we have co-editing beta. So this is really a great way to test out using our feature to work with your other classmates. What you do here, everyone, write this down. You have to click the Enable Co-editing button right now. That has to be clicked every time you want to do a project. It's not on by default yet. So we click this and it just saves it again to the cloud so that it's up there so that I can then add my friends to come work with me. So maybe I want to add Caitlin, who's rocking it in the chat right now, I'm sure. So I can add Caitlin, she'll get an email and she'll be able to come and work in this file with me. Yes, awesome, I love that, super cool. Okay, so we went over some of the basics and now it's time to prototype, guys. The first feature and the most coolest one is auto-animate. So I'm going to do this first. You can use auto-animate for so many different use cases in your prototype. What does auto-animate mean? I'm not an animator, you guys. This is like not how my brain works. So being able to create motion and micro interactions is really hard sometimes with some of these really complex tools with timelines and frames and all of these things. So with auto-animate, you can create these immersive transitions to visualize movement across artboards with just 2 artboards. You're gonna ask me, Jamie, how does this work? Because it's so amazing and it's doing all the work for you that you really don't even need to know that much and you think you need to know more than you need to know. So here we go. In prototype mode, we have 2 artboards. I'm gonna make this bigger. And auto-animate interprets the difference between artboard 1 and artboard 2, okay? It interprets the difference. So what's different? Raise your hands, everyone, and the clue is right here in the file name. This card is big and this card is small, okay? This card is small and this card is big, okay? So all I did was I made one artboard with the regular size cards and a second artboard with different size cards. And now for this to work, pro tip, you have to make sure your cards are named the same thing. So what XD is doing, it's looking for that name of that group or element and interpreting what you changed, what property was changed between those elements. Now you can see I've already dragged a wire between these elements. These little lines connecting these artboards is what we call a wire. All right, so we're in prototype mode. You can see now my properties panel has changed. Just like I told you earlier, it's contextually aware. So now that XD knows I'm in prototype mode, it's showing me features related to prototyping and interactions. So now let's look at them here together in the properties panel. We have the interaction. You have your trigger, okay, everybody? That is the action you're gonna take or what you're going to do to make the interaction happen. So I wanna just tap, that's like click or tap is the same. We have other ones, drag, time, keys, and gamepad and voice, and we'll talk about those. We have actions, that's what's gonna happen when I tap. So for me, since we're talking about auto-animate, we're obviously gonna use auto-animate. So that's our transition that we've selected, auto-animate. There's overlay, previous artboard, and then these other ones we'll get into later. The destination. Now, just because you have a wire, just think of wires as the ability to connect one thing to another. It doesn't have to be artboards. It can also be states. And we'll talk about states in a little bit. But for this project, this example, I'm going to show, I wanted to go to the different transform size artboard, which is what we named it on the canvas, and it's already recognized that because I've already dragged that wire to that destination. Easing. Now, I recommend you play with this because it can be really fun, but if you want some sort of special like whoop or a swirl or a wind up or something to happen to your animation to give it a little bit of like what, you know, when it bounces or something, this is where you do it. This is easing, everybody. That's where you get the what on your file. The duration is how long the actual transition or micro interaction that you're making is going to last. And this matters. You don't want it to go like super fast, no one sees it, and you're like, what? Or too slow, and you're like, oh, ready, come on, let's go. Let's get to the next thing. So this is really important to be able to set the time. So now we know what a wire is, what the properties are of wires, what is auto-animate, and what we're gonna do today on this example. We're gonna auto-animate size. Let's do it. The build-up has been so intense. We're ready, Jamie. Show us already. Okay, I'm doing it. Here's my starting artboard. Everything's equal in size. I get the hand. I click on it, and it moves. That simple. I know. Do you want me to show it to you again? Because you're like, how did that happen? How did that work?
Show us again.
Magic, magic. Okay, so you see I click and it's starting to move back and forth. So let's dig a little deeper. What's happening underneath? All right, we have artboard 1. I'm going to show you my layers panel. I have all these rectangles, right? I have this rectangle, I got this one. They're all named the same thing. When I go to my end, so I have a starting point and an ending point. When I go to my ending point, so what I did was just, you know, I can even show you this now. Let's go to design mode. Maybe I make this even smaller, you guys. Let's make this teeny tiny. I just made a change from the starting point to the ending point. It is also all named the same thing, mind you, okay? That's it. You have to remember the way XD is doing this is it knows where it begins, it knows where it ends, and it interprets the difference between those two artboards for you. So now we made this card uber tiny. Let's look at this animation again. Okay. Whoa. Whoa. I could do this all day. This is fun. And isn't that what you want to do, guys? Isn't that the goal of your design, is to make it fun and have a positive experience for your users? What's more fun than making things zoom in and out? I don't know. I love it. I could click on this all day. So that's how this works. It's interpreting that difference for you. Okay, guys? And you know what? Because I made it so much smaller, it felt like that transition was too fast. Do you guys agree? It like zoomed out really quick. This is where we come and make some modifications. Let's go back to our properties panel and then make it slower so we can really marinate on this awesome transition. Ooh, okay, that feels a little bit better. And it's subtle, but it matters. So you can come and tweak this. Maybe we make it like real slow. Let's change that. Oh, now you can see how different that is. That's just one property, guys. There's lots of different properties that you can change in auto-animate. Let's go to the next one. This one's position. Starting artboard. Everything's regular, right, guys? Ending artboard. Stuff has moved down the artboard, even off a little bit on the bottom. Let's see what happens. Cool. Oh my gosh, it's so cool. I can't even. This is amazing. Okay, what else? Rotation. What? So all that's changed here, I'm gonna go back to design mode. These triangles look the exact same. Jamie, what are you talking about, rotation? Okay, well, in the properties panel in design mode, you see my rotation value here under component. It's got a 0 value. Now I click on it, the second one, and the value is 360. So it looks the same because it's a triangle, it's just rotated around, but the only value I changed was that rotation value. Okay, now let's get back to prototype mode, just that easy. Whee! So loading icons, anything you want to do, you can have this cool spin effect. It's so fun. You can also change opacity. So if you want stuff to like disappear, reappear, kind of fade in, you can do that just by changing the opacity. So when I go to design mode, just like we did with rotation, we have a bar here that shows our opacity is 100 on our regular artboard. Our modified one, it's down to 30%. Okay, guys, that's it. I changed one thing and one thing only from my starting point to my ending point. Wow, it's like a ghost. Paths. So if you're doing data visualization, you have to show a chart and how things change over time. You can isolate one of these little points on the path and move them around and actually animate them. So let's go back to prototype mode. Let's hit play. Oops, sorry guys, I'm in the wrong thing. And then let me move this. I want to get out of here, but my Zoom is in the way. Okay, all right, sorry guys. Okay, I'm back. Zoom's in the way. Okay, here we go. Hit play. Watch now. Yes. How fun is that? The data has changed from yesterday to today, and here's how it looks, especially in my data visualized chart. What? Awesome. All right, quiz time. Quiz time for people. You're not going to win anything with this quiz. You're just going to be the smarty pants in the room. That's what you're going to get. What 2 properties did I change in the pink version? What 2 properties changed to make this transition? Ready? Everybody watch. Who can guess it? Watch what's happening. What did I do? Any guesses? See where it is here? Okay, Katie, the answer is opacity and position. So I made it 0% opacity and moved it all the way to the bottom so that when I clicked, it looked like it slid in from nowhere. Pretty cool stuff.
Hey, Jamie, we're getting a lot of questions. Do you mind just showing one more time drawing that wire to auto-animate an element?
Yeah, man, let's start from scratch. Okay, if you're following along at home, we can do this together. Let's go back to design mode and make an artboard. We just click our artboard tool here. We can select what form factor we want. Let's get just any form factor and we'll drop it in artboard. So if you're following from home, we're gonna actually do this together. We're gonna break this down. We're gonna make any old shape. Let's just do a square because squares are easy. Make a square. Maybe since I'm presenting, I want it to be nice and bright so everybody can see around the world here what's happening. So I have a design. This is my design. I have an artboard with a red square on it. Now I want to animate this square. What I do is I hit Command D or Control D, depending if you're on a Mac or PC, which means duplicate. So I'm going to select my artboard and duplicate that artboard. Pro tip, why did I do duplicate and not copy and paste? Because when I click on this square, rectangle, whatever, it has to have the same name. If you copy and paste, sometimes it adds a -2 or a -3 or whatever to the end of the name, and then XD will not be able to interpret the difference between them. So we just duplicated the artboard. If you're following along, this is really easy, guys. Now we have our start state, which is a regular red square. Now in my end state, I want to change some properties. So let's change shape. So I'm going to take this round circle thing and round the corners. So what did I do? I just changed the shape. I also maybe want to rotate this. Maybe this thing rotates. You guys can follow along, do this at home too. I want to change the size. Maybe it gets big. Maybe this is like grows. And the position. Maybe we're going to drag it down. It's going to end up at the bottom. And it's going to slightly disappear. So I'm going to change the opacity. Don't feel like you guys have to do every single thing. Just change some properties of your squares. Okay? So now these 2 artboards look super different from each other. I have the red square and I have this thing that I just morphed into this shape at the bottom of my artboard. So it's time to prototype. So we toggle to prototype mode, just as easy as clicking prototype in the top nav. I click on my red square. I get the blue arrow indicating I can drag a wire. Okay, guys, ready? Click and hold, drag your wire until this highlights blue and release. Now it's connected to something. When I go to my properties panel, I have it set to tap. I have it set to auto-animate. It automatically knows what ending artboard, and I can change the easing if I want to and the duration. I'm gonna maybe make it 0.8, okay? So we just did it, we just made a wire. But now what I wanna do is to be able to go back and forth. So I'm gonna select the red square again on my ending point, click and hold on the arrow and drag back to my starting point. And what's great is XD remembered what I put in here, guys. So I don't have to fill it out again. And that's it. We just made a prototype with auto-animate. So let's preview what we just created. What? That's it, you guys. It's that simple. Now, I wish I could spend a ton of time on this today, but we do have to move on to some other features. Katie will put resources in there for you guys to go learn more about auto-animate in XD and how you can make these really cool things. Don't doubt yourself. If you're not an animator like me, you can do it. I believe in you. And look how fun this is already. And we just did a red square. Imagine if you had a full design and you started changing some things between your designs, how cool that could look. All right. So let's go to the next feature. And we're going to move, we're running out a little bit of time here. So I'm going to kind of go a little bit more quickly here with the rest of these. I think auto-animate is the best. But you remember how we had our produce here in design mode. And we had this grouping at the bottom of different options for you to choose from. And what I want to do is to be able to drag between these different options of fruits and vegetables. So same concept as auto-animate, guys, with drag. This is a common thing we see in mobile experiences, right? We're going to copy and paste this. Oh, sorry, I don't want to do that. I want to duplicate my artboard, Command or Control D. So now I have this artboard here again. And from the same concept as auto-animate as your starting point, I want to change this to my ending point. So we just learned about that, right, guys? We have a start point and an end point. So the start point, the berries and citrus is in focus. The end point, the tropical and the greens is in focus. So now I'm ready to make a drag feature. What I want to do is select my little array here of produce. And again, in order to make things happen, we have to have a wire connecting them. So what I want to do is drag a wire to the next artboard. Now, instead of tap, we're going to use drag. And by default, auto-animate is selected. And we're going to choose snap this time as our easing because that's what snap was developed for. It was actually for the drag feature. And I'm going to go on to my end state artboard and do the same thing. I want to drag a wire back because I want to be able to slide back and forth between this array of items. And when I do that, XD has remembered the properties I just selected, and it automatically does that for me, so I don't need to do anything else. So now I can simply go here, I get my hand icon, and I can now drag back and forth between the tropical and greens and the berries and the citrus. So pretty cool. If you want to try this, just make a series of squares, group it together, and try doing what I just did at home. Come back, rewatch this video, and really give it a go. Okay, we're gonna move on to the next thing, which is overlays. I'm sure we're all familiar with this. We have different use cases for overlays. It can be a menu that comes down. It can be a keyboard that flies in. In this instance, I want something that pops up to say that we've added these recipes to our favorites. So how do overlays work in XD? Well, I already have, let's just kind of take this off here. Okay, so I want to have this little plus go to the overlay screen. So I'm going to select that in prototype mode. I'm going to select the plus and I'm going to drag it to my artboard that has the overlay on it already. And what happened, you guys, to this? What is different? Can you see the difference in this artboard versus other artboards? It's transparent now, because it's been designated as an overlay with some sort of clickable element. This one also, we need to change this so that it is not an overlay. So we're going to delete that. Okay, so you see that it's transparent, so we have a drop shadow on our overlay. So now I'm going to go back to that wire transition here. Sorry if this one's getting a little confusing. When I click on that wire to overlay, on tap, we want overlay. When we select that, it's going to give us this crosshairs. And it's asking us, where do we want this overlay to pop up? So now, since we've said when we tap this plus icon, we want an overlay to come into the screen. It's going to ask us where on the screen do we want that overlay. I think right here looks pretty good. Pro tip is that it has to be within the viewport height. So the viewport height is determined by this dotted line here, and that is based on the type of device or screen that you're designing for. And then you can pick an animation. Dissolve is fine. We'll just do a regular ease in and out and maybe make it a little bit quicker so we can customize those properties again. So let's go ahead and preview this recipe mixed berry artboard. And I'm going to scroll down. Oh, this looks really interesting. Oh, maybe I'll try that tomorrow for breakfast, but I'm not ready to cook this right now. I really want to add this to my favorites for later. So I'm going to hit this plus button and it says added to your favorites. Very cool. And you see there's a drop shadow here around my favorites pop out, which is a nice feature. So in overlays, you can have blur effects, you can have shadows, you can have transparencies that come on over your screen that really create that real life experience. And then I just click OK and it goes away. And I know what you're thinking. You're like, Jamie, but we didn't prototype another wire to close that overlay. So how did it know to close? Well, because we made this an overlay action, by default, XD does this little tail wire here that actually closes that overlay for you by having it go back to the previous artboard, which is the recipe artboard. So again, just another way that XD is saving you time throughout your process. Now, that was a real quick, explanation of overlays. And I really want you guys to dig deeper, go in, do some of the Howard Pinsky tutorials, and start getting familiar with some of these features, and come back, watch it again, and try it yourself, okay? So fixed position, this is really simple, but it can actually create some really awesome effects within your design. So for example, we have a recipes page here for my app design, and it's longer than our viewport height, so it's gonna scroll. And let's take a look at what this looks like now. Oh wait, I wanna change something, hold on. I'm gonna come in here. Okay, so we're gonna take a look at what this looks like now. Everything's scrolling, and then, whoa, hey now, right in the middle of my mixed berry medley, there is this big footer, and it's like moving, and it's supposed to be here in this space at the bottom. And that's very common, especially on a mobile device. You wanna have that stuck in place so people can get to the main navigation really easily. So you kind of saw me preview that a second there. In prototype mode, I can select that group of objects, which is my footer, right? So come here, I've named it footer, it's a grouping of objects, and all I have to do is hit fixed position when scrolling. So now let's try this again. Whoa, how cool is that? Now it's staying in that space at the bottom that I wanted it to stay in, and it's not over my mixed berry medley. Now I want to do another feature, something unique to XD too, is that you can fix anything that you want no matter where it is in the layer order. So this image, for example, the hero photo is at the bottom of my layers. So I also want this to stay fixed in position. And why would I do that? Why do I want it to stay fixed? The reason for that is I want to create something that looks kind of like parallax, you guys. So like when some stuff's scrolling and some stuff isn't, I want that cool dynamic feeling when someone's going through my recipe app. So I just hit fixed position. Basically, it was the checkbox here in the properties panel. And I'm going to go back and preview this again. Oh, it's so cool. It's like, wow, now the recipe cards slide in over the top. So based on where these elements are in the layer order determines how the scrolling appears. Since the footer was at the top, you guys up here, it was the bun on top, everything else went underneath. And because the hero image was the bun on the bottom, everything else went over the top. So that's how all of this is working. So all these things in the middle are moving while these other elements are staying fixed. So you get a really cool kind of effect here with fixed position. Okay, so let's keep going. Quickly going to talk, I think, about anchor links. This is real quick, a newer feature for us. So with anchor links, basically how this works is that you're able to connect to different parts of your design. So we're going to go ahead and do this. All right, so we already have a home page that has a fixed header. So we just learned how to do that. And we have an about, shop, and recipes section here in our design. So I'm going to go ahead and take my about menu, click on it until I get the arrow on the word about, and I'm going to drag until not another artboard is highlighted, but an artboard or an element within my artboard is highlighted. So if you see how my layers are set up, I have a top nav, I have an about, shop, recipes, and footer. So I have a really nicely organized situation here. So when I get to shop, you see how my layers are changing. I can go down till the shop section is highlighted and let go. And then I can do the same thing with recipes, kind of pull it down here until I hit the recipes section. Now you see I have these wires that are actually connecting something to itself within the artboard. And the type has changed to scroll to. So we learned about overlay, we learned about auto-animate, we learned about different triggers. So now on tap, what I want to have happen is I want this to automatically drop me down to those places in my landing page. Whoa, pretty cool, right? But it's kind of cutting off the top here due to my fixed header. So how do we adjust that? So I'm going to go ahead and come back to my wire, and we now have a lightning bolt option to do an offset action. So I'm going to make it about 160 pixel offset here for my design, so that when it drops down, it actually doesn't drop straight down. It gives me some extra room. I'm going to do it again down here. This is called Y offset, everyone. And I'm going to do it here, but you can also adjust it in the properties panel. So I can pick a value here. I want negative 160. I can even do positive 160 and set that there in the value. So now when I do my anchor tag again, let's do shop first. Oh, now it fits really nicely in the screen. So that's pretty cool. This is a great way, especially if you have long landing pages with lots of content, to drop people down to the most relative information for them. So quickly, I want to talk about component states and components. So we have a button here. We're going to go ahead and select this button, design mode. Okay. So we have a button and we have a hover effect. And normally when we're doing this, it would take lots and lots of steps to make this into a hover effect. But with XD, it's really simple. You can do lots of things with components, and I'm only going to touch the tip of the iceberg. You guys are going to have to go in, and we're going to have to do more here. We'll show you more in the tutorials later in the links that we're going to share with you. So I have a group. It's text with a shape behind it. And I'm going to go to my assets panel here, and I'm going to go ahead and let me just delete this one. I'm going to go ahead and make it a component by hitting the plus button. I can also hit Command K. There's lots of ways to make it a component, but in order for states to work, you have to make it a component first, which is basically a reusable element that you can use in your designs. Now you can see my properties panel here on the right that I now have something called default state highlighted in blue underneath my component properties. What I want to do now is hit the plus button and add a hover state, and it has a little lightning bolt, so we know something's going to happen. That's kind of cool. So I'm going to leave it named hover state, and it's highlighted blue. And what I'm going to do is change an attribute of that button, and it's going to be color. So I'm going to make it a darker green based on my design preference here. And when I go back to that component, I can toggle now between the default and hover and see that those two states of that same element are now different. But what's even cooler, because I made this a hover state, when I preview this artboard, automatically when I roll over, XD now makes that animation happen for me. So what happened, if we guys, since we're learning about prototyping, let's go back. In prototype mode, XD added a wire. So what it did is by default said the trigger was hover. You can change these to be what you want. The default is auto-animate. You can select states. Not only can we connect artboards, and not only can we connect wires to other elements within the design, we can actually select states. And that's how we make hover effects. You guys, I really want to show you voice. We only have about 5 minutes left, so it's going to be really quick. But here's voice. Basically what you do is with your wires here, you can make multiple interactions for different utterances. You can type in a command. So what I typed in was green, and your transition can be anything you want it to be. And when you land on where you're going, there's already here a wire showing us speech playback. So we're going to use time as our interaction transition and play this back. So let's go ahead and see how voice works in XD. Green.
The results are broccoli, kale, red pepper, and strawberries. Would you like any of these?
Broccoli, please.
How many broccoli would you like?
Add 2 heads to cart. Done. And you heard that little chime? That's actually an audio file that I've loaded to my prototype. So instead of having it be a voice talk back to me, I was able to load this pleasant falling audio file to play back for me. So pretty awesome. So those are some of the main features of prototyping, but I do want to show you one last thing, and it's called share mode. So now once you've made your prototype, what we talked about earlier, getting that feedback, sharing it with stakeholders is super, super important. So because I have my high fidelity marked as my home flow, I'm able to come here and create a new link. I can make it for design review, development, presentations, user testing, and even customize it. I even have some ability here to add different levels of permissions. So what that does is it creates an actual URL string, which is up here in my browser, that anyone can open. They don't even have to have XD. In this particular use case, I made this for my developer. So what my developer can do is actually come in and interact with my design. They can do all the same functionality that we had in the design. Remember that from the beginning? They're going to load up all of their fruits and vegetables, check out. They can even toggle here in this view. And they can do all of that here in this actual view. They can even add comments and ask questions like, what is this? All caps, here we go. And we can submit that comment right here on our design. So this is a great way to work with developers or your educators and mentors too. You can filter your comments in this view by who left them, when they left them. You can even resolve the comments. And when you make the changes, you don't need to make a new URL. You can just update that same URL with those changes. But now we're ready to share it with our developers. And you can see in this upper right corner, we have a chat icon, and now we have a specs icon, right? So we just changed to specs view. And what this is specifically for developers. So I can come here and I can see as a developer all the different cards that I have. I can even see the flow between the cards, guys. Remember how I have this set up on my XD file? Well, it's right here in the same browser view for my developers. And when I'm ready to develop one of these cards, I can click into them. And if I'm the developer right now, I can start clicking on elements in here and see the spatial relationships that are between each of these elements. I can actually even see the size. I can see the icon size. It's all here for me in the view. I can even see how far this is away from the edges, 41 pixels from each edge. And you can see I'm getting some information about my viewport height, the appearance, and even some CSS. What's great too is that if I want to download this orange, I can come down here and download this directly from my web experience. So I don't need to send over extra files to my developer. They can download everything they need right here. They can also see the colors and one-click copy those. We can get character styles, and even the interactions are defined for that developer. And I know most of my developers dread it when they have a bunch of copy that they have to copy and paste into a file. So they can slide through here and they can actually one-click copy the text and get the CSS snippets here if it's built in web. There's different for Android and iOS, of course, but they can get those CSS snippets right here from this browser view. So that takes through the basics of prototyping in XD. If you guys are interested in more stuff, follow us on Twitter. We do have a Twitter handle here, Adobe XD. You can follow me and Katie. We also have the website Let's XD. I'm sure Katie has shared this with you multiple times. You can learn more about prototyping underneath the Learn tab, and you can even find more events similar to this one, which was on here as well in our events area of the website. If you want to see how creative people are getting with these prototyping capabilities, come to Behance. Look at all these cool projects, you guys. Come to Behance, and under XD, you can see how people are building and creating in XD and using design and animation to create different projects. Like here's somebody's sketching process that they recorded, and they have their wireframes here. So if you're a student, this is so amazing. Come to Behance and learn from others who are doing the same thing. We also have XD ideas. So if you just Google Adobe XD ideas, this is a great place to come find thought leadership. There's career tips here, you guys. There's stuff about UX principles. We have great perspectives from leaders in the industry. This is such a content-rich area, especially for people who are learning the basics of UX and wireframing. We even have a newsletter that you can sign up for and subscribe to. And lastly, the Wireframe podcast by Koivin, our principal designer at Adobe. So much interesting content, you guys, that takes you out of the standard UX thoughts and gives you a whole new perspective on UX. So great podcast to listen to give you that perspective. So I hope you guys appreciated the presentation today. I just want to say thank you. And Katie, I don't know, we're a little bit over. Emily, if we want to take questions, we can hang out for a minute for a question or two, or if you have to go, totally understand. But thanks, guys.
I do need to hop off, but before I do want us to ask the question so that way we can.
Oh, right, we have to give away. We have
a
to
giveaway.
All right, so we're going to do that. We're not going to take questions. You guys can always come back later. What we're going to do now is the giveaway for the free Creative Cloud before this is all over. So everyone get ready, okay? So the way this works is I'm going to ask the question. If you know the answer, put it in the chat. We'll give you 1 minute to answer. Out of all of the correct answers, we will randomly choose a winner, okay? So here, let's get our timer ready to go. All right, I hope you guys are all paying attention. Here is the question. What is the name of the plugin that allows you to draw on artboards in XD? What was the name of the plugin? We're at about 13 seconds. You have plenty of time if you want to put your answer in. That allows you to draw on your artboards in XD. Okay. Give you guys a couple more seconds here to get your answers in. Do a countdown. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay. Do we have some right answers, Katie?
Yeah, do I get the fun part?
Yes. So
oh my
select the random winner.
Okay, so I ran all your names and the right answers. We are Arun Kubasad, you are the winner.
Woo!
Type that in.
Type it in. Type in the winner's name. Who do we have here?
And if you are the winner, please stick
Our
around.
own, yeah.
There we go.
We need some information from you, so don't leave yet.
Don't leave. We're going to need your information, Arun. You can actually, I'm going to put my email in here for you, Arun. Just send me a quick note and we can get that set up for you. It's basically my last name at Adobe. Arun, send me a note and we'll get you set up with your free year of Creative Cloud. Woo-woo.
Congratulations! Yay!
Yay!
This was amazing.
I saw the
Everyone
chat
loved
was
your
going
energy.
crazy. I hope
Yeah.
you had a good time.
Yeah, half of these people just love how much energy you have, and everyone is so blown away again by what XD can do. I know I've said this in the last webinar, but I am blown away as well. So thank you everyone for being here. This was amazing, and thank you to Jamie and Katie for being here and hosting this with us. This awesome way to end our Fridays, right? And then go into a long weekend. So for everyone who's still wondering, this webinar is recorded. It will be uploaded to the Designlab YouTube channel. And we share that link really quickly if you guys didn't catch that earlier. So this will be live within a day or two. So yeah, this will be up there. Our old webinars are up there, and any future webinars will be uploaded there as well. So feel free to subscribe to our channel to stay up to date with our content, and then stay tuned for more exciting content with us and Adobe. Thank you guys.
All right, thanks everyone. Aaron, make sure you email me and we'll get that set up for you. Thanks everyone.
Thanks, Jamie. Thanks, Katie. See you
Bye.
guys later.
Okay.
Bye.